Captain Elaine Wright of the exploration vessel Curiosity was having an ordinary day. She sat in her command chair, sipping coffee and watching her crew work at their stations. The ship was small but important. Their job was to study the outer edges of our solar system, far beyond Pluto. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Sensors Officer Ben Miller. His eyes were fixed on his screen, his forehead wrinkled with confusion. "Define strange, Officer Miller," said Captain Wright, as she stood up and walked over to his station. "It's big, very big, and it's moving in a way that doesn't make sense." Miller tapped a few buttons, bringing up a visual on the main screen. The bridge crew fell silent. There, against the blackness of space, was a massive object. It was at least 20 times larger than their own ship. The object was shaped like an arrow, with gleaming metal that shifted colors in the dim light of the distant sun. Is it a ship?" asked Communications Officer Daniel Green. He had been with the crew for 5 years and had never seen anything like this. "I think so," Captain Wright said softly. "And it's not one of ours." The object suddenly slowed from an impossible speed and came to a stop about 10,000 miles from the Curiosity. It seemed to hang in space, silent and waiting. "Are they doing anything?" asked Lieutenant Sam Morgan, who stood at the weapons station. "Not that their small weapons would do much against something so massive." "No, sir," said Miller. "They're just sitting there." Captain Wright returned to her chair. "Mr. Green, open all standard greeting channels. Let's see if they want to talk." Green nodded and began working at his station. "Channels open, Captain." Before Wright could speak, the main screen lit up. The image showed a large room with high ceilings and strange glowing symbols on the walls. In the center stood a tall figure. The alien was about 7 feet tall with scaly, greenish-brown skin. It wore what looked like armor, covered in shiny metals and colorful ribbons. Its head was reptilian with large yellow eyes and a crest of small spikes running from the top of its head down its back. "Humans of the Sol System," the alien's voice boomed through the speakers. It spoke perfect English, which was the first surprise. "Bow before the might of the galactic hegemony. Your planet and resources are now under the protection and guidance of Emperor ZXL Tor, the magnificent 17th ruler of the 10,000 worlds." The bridge crew exchanged looks. Lieutenant Morgan bit his lip. Chief Engineer Patricia Kelly, who had just walked onto the bridge, made a strange sound in her throat. Captain Wright stood up straight. "This is Captain Elaine Wright of the Earth, exploration vessel Curiosity. We welcome you to our solar system and are interested in peaceful communication." The alien seemed surprised by this response. It blinked its large eyes slowly. "Perhaps you do not understand, tiny human vessel. I am Grand Admiral Cluthak, right hand of the Emperor. We are not asking for permission. We are informing you of your new status as subjects of the greatest empire the galaxy has ever known." At this, Lieutenant Morgan couldn't hold back any longer. A small snort escaped him. The alien's eyes narrowed. "Is something amusing?" "Lower. Life form?" Admiral Cluthak demanded. No, Morgan said quickly. "Just a throat thing. Please continue." The alien puffed up its chest, making the many metals clink together. "As I was saying, we bring you the gift of Imperial protection. Your primitive species will benefit greatly from our 50,000 years of superior civilization." This time, it was Chief Engineer Kelly who broke. She let out a laugh, then covered her mouth with her hand. The alien's face showed clear offense even through its reptilian features. "Captain, control your crew," the Admiral demanded. Captain Wright tried to keep a straight face. "I apologize, Admiral. We're just surprised by your appearance. We've never met aliens before." "That is obvious," the Admiral said with what seemed like a sniff of disgust. "Your behavior shows your species' lack of proper training in Imperial etiquette. We shall remedy this." The alien made a grand gesture with its arm, causing more metals to jingle. "We will send a delegation to your vessel to begin your education in proper subservience to the hegemony." At the word subservience, Security Officer Jack Winters lost his battle with laughter. Soon the entire bridge crew was failing to hide their amusement. Some tried to turn their laughs into coughs. Others simply looked away from the screen. The alien's face turned a darker shade of green. What is the meaning of this disrespect? It nearly shouted. Captain Wright managed to compose herself. Again, I apologize, Admiral. We would be happy to receive your delegation and learn more about your empire. The screen went black as the alien cut the connection. Oh my God, said Communications Officer Green, wiping tears from his eyes. Did that really just happen? Did we just meet aliens who think they're space kings? It appears so, said Captain Wright, allowing herself a smile now that the alien couldn't see it. And they expect us to just hand over Earth because they have a fancy ship and lots of medals. What do we do now, Captain? Asked Lieutenant Morgan. We follow protocol. We contact Earth immediately and report first contact, and then... She paused. We prepare to receive our visitors. 2 hours later, a small shuttle departed from the massive alien ship and approached the Curiosity. Captain Wright had informed Earth of the situation, and to her surprise, the response had been quick. Be diplomatic, gather information, make no commitments. The alien delegation consisted of 5 beings similar to Admiral Kulthak, though none quite as decorated. They walked with stiff formality into the Curiosity's meeting room, looking down their snouts at everything they saw. This vessel is quite primitive, said the lead alien, who had introduced himself as Sub-Commander Trelak, but it will serve for our preliminary discussions. Captain Wright had selected a small team to meet with the aliens. Herself, Lieutenant Morgan, Dr. Richard Patel, the ship's science officer, and Chief Engineer Kelly, who had promised to control herself. Welcome aboard the Curiosity, Captain Wright said. We're eager to learn about your civilization. The aliens arranged themselves in what seemed to be an order of importance. Sub-Commander Trelak stepped forward. Humans, he began formally. You have been chosen to join the greatest empire in the galaxy. This is a great honor. He produced a small device that projected a hologram of the galaxy with thousands of stars highlighted in red. All of these systems bow to Emperor Zex Eltor. Soon yours will as well. Dr. Patel leaned forward with interest. And what exactly does joining your empire involve? The alien smiled, showing pointed teeth. Simply put, you will provide resources and tribute to the imperial throne, follow imperial law, and accept imperial governors to oversee your world. In return, you receive the Emperor's divine protection. The humans managed not to laugh this time, but Captain Wright couldn't help but ask, and if we decline this, honor? The alien's smile disappeared. That would be most unwise. The last species that refused the Emperor's generosity no longer exists. He let those words hang in the air. But surely intelligent beings like yourselves can see the benefits of our 500 centuries of wisdom. Captain Wright nodded slowly. We certainly need time to consider such an important decision. How long might we have to discuss this with our planetary government? The sub-commander seemed pleased with this response. The Grand Admiral grants you 1 Earth week to prepare your formal submission ceremony. As the aliens left, Chief Engineer Kelly whispered to Captain Wright, Are they for real? They certainly seem to think so, the captain replied quietly. And that might be the scariest part of all. News of the alien contact spread quickly on Earth. Within hours of Captain Wright's report, emergency meetings were called at the United Nations. World leaders gathered in New York to discuss how to respond to the strange ultimatum. President Natalie Garcia of the United States sat at the main table with other key leaders. Ambassador Frank Russell, who had been quickly appointed as Earth's chief diplomatic representative, stood at the front of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, Russell began. As incredible as it sounds, we have made contact with an alien civilization. They call themselves the Galactic Hegemony. He played the recording from the Curiosity, showing Grand Admiral Kulthak's announcement. When the recording ended, the room was silent for a moment. Then someone laughed. Soon others joined in. Even President Garcia was smiling. Are they serious? Asked the British Prime Minister. Completely serious, it seems, Russell replied. Captain Wright reports that they were deeply offended when her crew laughed at them. Dr. Lucy Hoffman stepped forward. She was the world's leading xenoanthropologist, though until now her work had been theoretical. I've analyzed the recording. Carefully, she said. Everything about them, their posture, their elaborate decorations, their speech patterns, suggests a culture built on strict hierarchy and ceremony. Like an old royal court? Someone asked. Exactly, said Dr. Hoffman. From what we can tell, they have maintained this structure for over 50,000 years. They genuinely believe they are superior and that their emperor has some kind of divine right to rule the galaxy. President Garcia frowned. And they expect us to just give up our independence because they say so? That seems to be the case, Russell said. They've given us 1 week to prepare for what they call a formal submission ceremony. And if we refuse? Asked the Chinese president. Russell's face grew serious. They implied that they have destroyed other species who refused to join their empire. The room grew quiet again, but this time with worry rather than amusement. What do we know about their weapons? President Garcia asked. The UN Secretary-General Olivia Bennett spoke up. Not much yet. The Curiosity isn't equipped for detailed military scans, but NASA and Space Force are analyzing everything we have. We need more information, said the Russian president, and we need to buy time. Ambassador Russell nodded. I suggest we appear cooperative while gathering intelligence. I propose inviting a larger delegation to Earth, somewhere isolated where we can control the situation. Dr. Hoffman raised her hand. If I may, I think we should also study their psychology. Find out what makes them tick. They've clearly never encountered a species that didn't immediately submit to them. That gives us an advantage. They don't know how to handle resistance that isn't direct confrontation. The leaders agreed on a plan. Ambassador Russell would contact the aliens and invite a diplomatic party to Earth, to a special facility built on a small island in the Pacific Ocean. Meanwhile, Earth's military forces would quietly prepare for the worst. 3 days later, a much larger alien shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. News cameras from around the world captured the event live. The shuttle landed at the newly prepared diplomatic compound on Gardner Island. Admiral Clothak emerged first, now wearing even more medals and ribbons than before. Behind him came 12 other aliens of various ranks, all looking around with expressions that seemed to mix disgust and curiosity. Ambassador Russell greeted them with a deep bow, following Dr. Hoffman's advice to appear respectful. Welcome to Earth, Admiral Clothak. We are honored by your presence. The alien seemed pleased by this greeting. At least some humans understand proper etiquette, he said. I hope the rest of your species will learn quickly. The aliens were escorted into a large meeting hall where representatives from major nations waited. The hall had been decorated with flags and symbols from around the world. Admiral Clothak took his place at the head of the table without being invited. Let us begin your education, he announced. He activated a device similar to the one Subcommander Turlock had used on the Curiosity. A hologram appeared, showing an elaborate document. These are the Articles of Benevolent Subjugation, the Admiral explained. They outline your duties as a protectorate of the galactic hegemony. As he began to read the articles aloud, the human representatives struggled to keep straight faces. The document included requirements for Earth to supply annual tributes of gold, rare minerals, and agricultural products. It demanded that humans build temples to worship Emperor ZXL as a divine being. Most surprising of all, it stated that alien nobles would be installed as governors of Earth's regions. These governors will help your primitive democracy evolve into a proper hierarchical system, Admiral Clothak explained, as if offering a great gift. Ambassador Russell coughed to hide his reaction. Admiral, these are significant changes to our way of life. Our leaders will need time to consider them carefully. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. You have already had 3 days. The Emperor's patience is not unlimited. Dr. Hoffman, who was observing from a side room, sent Russell a message on his tablet. They're not used to negotiation. Push back politely. Russell nodded slightly. With respect, Admiral, Earth has many nations and billions of people. We cannot make such important decisions without proper consultation. Billions? For the first time, the Admiral seemed surprised. Your population is so large? Yes, Russell confirmed. How many citizens does the hegemony have? The Admiral puffed up his chest. The 10,000 worlds house trillions of imperial subjects. Something about the way he said it made Russell suspect he was exaggerating. He made a note to follow up on this later. Then surely you understand that governing billions requires careful consideration, Russell said smoothly. The Admiral seemed conflicted, then grudgingly nodded. We will grant you an additional Earth week. Use this time to prepare your people for their new status. After the meeting, the alien delegation was shown to their quarters in the compound. Meanwhile, in a secure room beneath the facility, Earth's leaders gathered again. Did you see how they reacted when we mentioned our population? President Garcia asked. Dr. Hoffman nodded excitedly. And did you notice how their technology, while advanced, seems almost stagnant? Their designs look like they haven't changed in centuries. Paul Martinez, a NASA engineer who had been studying the alien shuttle, joined the conversation. Their propulsion system is incredible, but their computer interfaces are clunky. It's like they developed certain technologies to an advanced point and then just stopped innovating. What are you suggesting? Asked Secretary General Bennett. Dr. Hoffman's eyes gleamed. I think their empire might not be as powerful as they claim. They rely on intimidation and ceremony because that's worked for them in the past, but I don't think they've faced a real challenge in a very long time. So what's our next move? Asked Ambassador Russell. President Garcia smiled slowly. We play along for now, but we also start testing their limits and we find out just how real their threats are. As the meeting ended, news channels worldwide were already showing clips of Admiral Kulthak's pompous behavior. Internet memes were spreading rapidly. Late-night comedians were having a field day. In less than 24 hours, the aliens had gone from being terrifying invaders to being the galaxy's biggest joke. And they had no idea. 5 days into the extended deadline, the massive alien warship, which they called the Imperial Dominance, moved into Earth orbit. It was clearly meant to scare humans into submission. News channels showed the ship day and night. It looked like a giant arrowhead with glowing lines running along its hull. Admiral Kulthak made a public announcement from the ship. His face appeared on screens worldwide. Humans of Earth, your time to accept Imperial rule is running short. In 2 days you will either join the galactic hegemony as loyal subjects or face the consequences of defiance. Our weapons can turn your cities to ash. Make the wise choice. The threat was clear. But behind the scenes, Earth's experts were busy. Colonel Alicia Reyes of Space Force Intelligence had been watching the aliens carefully. She sat in a secure room with President Garcia and other military leaders. Madam President, something doesn't add up, she said. For all their talk of planet-destroying weapons, the aliens haven't demonstrated even minor firepower. They keep threatening us, but they seem reluctant to prove they can back up those threats. You think they're bluffing? Asked General Ward. I'm not sure, Colonel Reyes replied, but I find it strange that a supposedly mighty empire needs to rely so heavily on fear rather than just showing their strength. Meanwhile, in a NASA facility, engineer Paul Martinez and his team had been studying the alien ship's energy emissions. They had pointed every telescope and sensor on Earth at the Imperial Dominance. The technology is definitely advanced, Martinez explained to his team, but it's odd. Their faster-than-light drive is incredible, but their power systems are inefficient. It's almost like they're using designs that haven't been updated in centuries. One of his colleagues, Maria Diaz, looked up from her computer. It's like they reached a certain level of technology and then just stopped innovating. They found something that worked and never bothered to improve it. Exactly, Martinez agreed. And have you noticed the ship's defensive systems? They're focused on the areas where the officers are quartered, not on protecting the engines or weapons. It's like they're more concerned with protecting their leaders than making an effective warship. At the same time, a small team of hackers led by Greg Howard, a civilian consultant, had been trying to access the aliens' communications. They worked out of a basement room beneath the diplomatic compound where the alien delegation was still staying. I'm in, Howard suddenly announced. You won't believe this. Most of their systems aren't even encrypted. It's like they never expected anyone to try hacking them. His team gathered around his screen. What are you seeing? Asked Samantha Lee, one of the other hackers. Internal communications, Howard said excitedly. And, oh, this is interesting. Listen to this message from someone named Subcommander, Trilak to another officer. He read aloud. The humans continue to stall. I worry they suspect our weakness. Admiral Kulthak refuses to consider that they might not surrender. If they call our bluff, I don't know what we'll do. Their bluff? Samantha repeated. So they are bluffing about their weapons. Howard continued reading through the messages. It gets better. Apparently the hegemony hasn't fought a real war in over 2,000 years. Their weapons are mostly ceremonial. Their tactics are based on ancient texts rather than actual experience. This information was quickly passed to Earth's leaders. In an emergency meeting, Ambassador Russell proposed a bold plan. Instead of refusing them outright, let's give them what they want. But not in the way they expect, he suggested. Let's hold a surrender ceremony that's so obviously fake that it makes them look foolish, but they won't be able to call us on it without admitting they knew it was a joke. Dr. Hoffman loved the idea. Psychological warfare. They care so much about ceremony and appearances. If we publicly mock their rituals while pretending to follow them, it will undermine their authority without giving them a clear reason to attack, if they even can attack. President Garcia thought for a moment, then nodded. Do it. Make it big, make it public, and make it ridiculous. The next day, as the aliens' deadline approached, humans prepared a global submission ceremony to be held in Madison Square Garden in New York. It was announced as a solemn acceptance of Earth's new status. Admiral Kulthak and his officers arrived wearing their most elaborate ceremonial armor. They were escorted to special seats overlooking the arena floor. The Admiral looked pleased, believing he had successfully intimidated humans into submission. What followed was the most elaborate practical joke in human history. The ceremony began with a parade of Earth's treasures, people carrying obviously fake golden statues made of spray-painted plastic. Children presented the aliens with rare gems that were actually candy in shiny wrappers. A group of actors dressed as Earth's highest council wore ridiculous costumes with impossibly tall hats and long, trailing capes that they kept tripping over. They read an official declaration of submission that was filled with flowery language praising the most extraordinary and not at all silly Emperor Zekultor. At one point, the Master of Ceremonies announced that Earth would now perform the ancient human dance of loyalty, which was actually just the chicken dance. Thousands of people in the arena stood up and flapped their arms while the aliens watched. In confusion, Admiral Kulthak's face showed growing anger, but he was stuck. If he complained that humans weren't taking the ceremony seriously, he would have to admit that he knew they were mocking him. If he accepted the ceremony, he would look foolish to everyone watching. Is something wrong, Admiral? Ambassador Russell asked innocently. Is this not pleasing to you? We have followed all the ceremony requirements in your articles of subjugation. The Admiral's scales darkened with what seemed like embarrassment or rage. This is not what we expected. But we are submitting just as you asked, Russell said with a straight face. Look, we even made a golden statue of Emperor Zekultor. He gestured to a hastily constructed statue that looked nothing like the Emperor and appeared to be made of cardboard covered in gold foil. The ceremony was broadcast worldwide and streamed to the Imperial dominance in orbit. Some of the lower-ranking aliens aboard the ship were seen trying not to laugh at their leader's discomfort. Sub-Commander Trilak, who had expressed doubts in his private messages, was watching the ceremony with growing interest. Unlike his superiors, he seemed to appreciate human creativity and humor. As the ceremony reached its ridiculous climax, with a chorus singing a hymn to the Emperor, set to the tune of a popular fast food jingle, Trilak made a decision. He discreetly contacted Lieutenant Commander Diana West, who had been assigned as a liaison to the alien delegation. We need to talk, he said quietly. Not all of us agree with the Admiral, and I think both our peoples are in danger if this continues. The lieutenants met secretly that night. Trelac revealed a stunning truth. The mighty galactic hegemony was not what it appeared to be, and the stage was now set for humans to turn the tables completely on their would-be conquerors. Lieutenant Commander Diana West met Sub-Commander Trelac in a quiet garden behind the diplomatic compound. Security cameras had been discreetly turned off in this area. The night was clear, with stars visible above them. "What you did today with that ceremony was brilliant," Trelac said in a low voice. "Insulting yet impossible to object to. I've never seen anything like it." Diana studied the alien's face. Unlike Admiral Clothak, Trelac wore minimal decorations and seemed more relaxed in his movements. "Why are you talking to me?" she asked directly. "This could be considered treason by your superiors." Trelac looked up at the stars. "The hegemony is not what it once was, not what it claims to be." He sighed, a surprisingly human gesture. "Our actual empire includes only about 50 fully inhabited worlds, not the thousands we claim. Most of our 10,000 worlds are empty planets. We've claimed but never colonized." "And your military?" Diana asked. "Mostly automated systems maintained by a small crew. We haven't fought a real war in over 2,000 years. Our weapons—" He hesitated. "Many are not functional. They're for show." Diana was stunned despite the earlier hints they'd discovered. "Then why come to Earth pretending to be so powerful?" "Because that's what we always do," Trelac explained. "For millennia we've encountered primitive species and scared them into joining us. By the time they learn the truth, they're already part of our culture and economy. But your world is different. You're advancing too quickly, and you're not afraid to question authority." Back at the White House, President Garcia received this information with great interest. She met with her advisors to plan their next move. "If what Trelac says is true, we have leverage we didn't know about," she said. Colonel Reyes nodded. "It explains why they haven't demonstrated their weapons. They can't. But we should still be cautious," Ambassador Russell warned. "Even outdated space technology is more advanced than what we have, and cornering them might make them desperate." "What if we turn this around completely?" suggested Dr. Hoffman. "Instead of becoming their subjects, what if we offered to be their partners?" President Garcia raised an eyebrow. "Partners?" "Yes," Dr. Hoffman continued excitedly. "If their empire is stagnant, maybe what they need is new energy, new ideas we could offer to help them innovate to revitalize their civilization. And in return, we get access to their technology and protection from any actual threats out there," Colonel Reyes added, catching on to the idea. The president smiled slowly. "I like it. Let's prepare a counter-proposal." Meanwhile, aboard the Imperial Dominance, Admiral Clothak was furious. He paced in his ornate quarters, his metals jingling with each angry step. "They made a mockery of us," he raged to his officers. "Their submission ceremony was an insult. But technically they did submit," one officer pointed out nervously. "We can't claim they violated the terms." "I know that," the Admiral snapped. "But they're clearly not taking us seriously. We need to show them our power." There was an uncomfortable silence. Finally, one brave officer spoke up. "Admiral, our main weapon systems haven't been fully operational for over a century. The energy required would—" "I don't want excuses," Clothak interrupted. "Prepare a demonstration. Target one of their uninhabited areas, a desert or ocean. Show them what happens to those who disrespect the hegemony." The officers exchanged worried glances but left to carry out their orders. Back on Earth, Greg Howard and his team of hackers had maintained their access to the alien ship systems. They listened to the Admiral's orders with alarm. "They're going to try to fire their weapons," Howard told President Garcia over a secure line. "From what we can tell, they might be able to cause some damage, but nothing like what they've threatened. The bigger problem is their systems are so outdated that attempting to fire might cause their own power grid to fail. So they could accidentally cripple their own ship?" the president asked. "Exactly. And if that happens while they're in orbit..." The implication was clear. A massive, disabled ship falling from orbit could cause tremendous damage. President Garcia made a quick decision. Contact Lieutenant Commander West. Tell her to get Trelac to help us. We need to stop this demonstration before it happens. Diana received the message and immediately sought out Trelac. Together they came up with a plan. Using Trelac's access codes and Howard's hacking skills, they managed to send false reports to the ship's weapons control room, making it appear that the AOIC targeting systems were misaligned. This forced the weapons officers to delay the demonstration. While this bought time, Diana and Trelac worked on a more permanent solution. They arranged for a special diplomatic meeting between Admiral Clothak and Earth's leaders. The meeting took place in the compound's main conference room. Admiral Clothak arrived, still angry but maintaining his dignity. He was surprised to find not just Ambassador Russell waiting for him, but also President Garcia herself. "Admiral," the President began, "we appreciate your patience with our unique approach to joining your empire. Today we'd like to discuss a special arrangement that could benefit us both." The Admiral looked suspicious. "What arrangement?" "We've studied your great civilization," President Garcia said smoothly, "and we believe we can offer something valuable. Earth would like to join the hegemony not as a subject world, but as a full partner with a seat on the Imperial Council." Admiral Clothak's eyes widened. "Preposterous. No new species has ever demanded representation. It takes millennia to earn such privileges." "That's not how we do things here," the President replied calmly. "And by the way, we've taken the liberty of upgrading your ship's outdated security systems. You're welcome." She nodded to Howard, who pressed a button on his tablet. On a large screen, the Admiral could see that humans had not only accessed his ship's systems, but had actually improved them, while simultaneously creating backdoor access for themselves. This is an outrage," the Admiral sputtered. "How dare you infiltrate Imperial technology?" "We didn't infiltrate it," Howard explained. "We fixed it. Your systems were vulnerable to cosmic radiation bursts. We added shielding protocols that will protect your data. Oh, and we also prevented your weapons systems from overloading your power grid, which would have been unfortunate." The Admiral stared in shock, unable to form a response. His entire strategy had been based on humans being too primitive to understand, let alone improve, hegemony technology. "Now," President Garcia continued pleasantly, "about our proposal. We join as equal partners or we don't join at all, and we're prepared to share our findings about your ship with the rest of your empire if you choose the second option." It was the perfect trap. If the Admiral refused, humans would reveal the truth about the hegemony's weaknesses to its own people. If he accepted, it would change 5,000 years of Imperial tradition. With Sub-Commander Trelac and other younger officers watching with interest, Admiral Clothak faced the most difficult decision of his long career, and humans waited patiently, knowing they had turned the tables completely on their would-be conquerors. Admiral Clothak stared at President Garcia, his reptilian face unreadable. The conference room was silent. Everyone waited for his response to Earth's bold proposal. Finally, he spoke. "This is impossible. No species has ever joined the hegemony as equals. The Emperor would never allow it." "Perhaps," said President Garcia. "It's time for the hegemony to evolve. From what we understand, your empire hasn't faced real challenges in centuries. That leads to stagnation." Sub-Commander Trelac stepped forward. "Admiral, if I may speak?" When Clothak nodded stiffly, Trelac continued. "The humans have shown remarkable adaptability and ingenuity. In less than 2 weeks, they've accessed our systems, improved our technology, and found weaknesses we didn't know existed. Imagine what they could offer as allies rather than subjects." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "You sound like you admire them, Sub-Commander." "I do," Trelac admitted. "Their culture encourages questioning and innovation. Ours has become rigid." Other junior officers nodded in agreement. This silent support wasn't lost on Clothak. After a long moment, the Admiral sighed. "I will take your proposal to the Emperor, but I make no promises." "That's all we ask," said President Garcia. "In the meantime, We'd like to establish direct communication with your homeworld. As a gesture of goodwill. The Admiral hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Very well. 6 weeks later, Captain Ryan Schultz stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned Earthship Audacity. It was humanity's first vessel built with adapted alien technology, capable of faster-than-light travel. They were approaching the hegemony's throne world, Zilthara. Nervous, Captain? Asked Lieutenant Commander West, who served as his first officer. A little, Schultz admitted. Leading the first human diplomatic mission to an alien capital is not how I expected my career to go. The Audacity carried a small delegation led by Dr. Karen Phillips, a brilliant diplomat and sociologist. Their mission, to present Earth's case directly to Emperor ZXL-Tor. Instead of arriving in a formal military formation as hegemony protocol dictated, the Audacity broadcast music, art, and an open invitation for cultural exchange as they approached the planet. The hegemony's response was mixed. Some officials were outraged by the breach of protocol. Others, especially younger aliens, were intrigued by the humans' different approach. When they landed, the human delegation was escorted to the Imperial Palace, an enormous structure that seemed designed primarily to make visitors feel small and insignificant. Everything was oversized, from the towering doorways to the massive throne at the center of the audience chamber. Emperor ZXL-Tor was even more elaborately decorated than Admiral Kolthak had been. His robes were heavy with jewels and precious metals. His throne sat atop a tall platform, forcing everyone to look up at him. So, the Emperor said, his voice echoing in the vast chamber, these are the humans who think they deserve equal status. With races that have been part of the hegemony for millennia, Dr. Phillips stepped forward, showing no intimidation. Your Majesty, we come offering partnership, not seeking special favors. We believe we have much to offer the hegemony, and much to learn from it as well. Admiral Klethak tells me you refused to accept your proper place as subjects, the Emperor said. He says you mocked our sacred ceremonies. We have different customs, Dr. Phillips replied diplomatically. On Earth, we value equality and free exchange of ideas. We don't believe one group should rule over others without their consent. The Emperor seemed surprised by her directness. And what makes you think your primitive ideas have any value to us? Instead of responding with words, Dr. Phillips activated a holographic display. It showed various improvements humans had made to hegemony technology in just the few weeks since first contact. The display included more efficient power systems, advanced computer interfaces, and new medical techniques. This is just the beginning, she explained. Imagine what we could accomplish together as partners. Murmurs spread through the court. Many of the younger nobles looked impressed. The Emperor, however, frowned. And if I refuse your offer? If I order you to submit properly or face destruction? Dr. Phillips smiled politely. We hoped it wouldn't come to that, Your Majesty, which is why we took the liberty of making contact with 3 other spacefaring species who have been avoiding the hegemony for centuries. The Emperor sat up straighter. What? There are no other spacefaring species in this region. Actually, there are, Captain Schultz said, stepping forward. They've been watching the hegemony from a distance, developing along their own paths. They have technologies your empire has never imagined because you stopped innovating long ago. This caused an uproar in the court. The Emperor raised his hand for silence, his face darkening with anger. This is treachery, lies. Not at all, said Dr. Phillips calmly. We invite you to meet with representatives of these species. They're quite interested in forming a new type of galactic community, one based on cooperation rather than conquest. The Emperor was about to respond when a younger noble stepped forward and knelt before the throne. Your Majesty, I believe the humans speak truth. Our scholars have detected signals from unknown civilizations for centuries, but the High Council always dismissed them as natural phenomena. Perhaps it's time to reconsider our assumptions. More nobles spoke up, supporting this view. The Emperor looked around his court, seeing the shift in opinion. For the first time in perhaps thousands of years, the absolute authority of the throne was being questioned. After a tense silence, Emperor Zaxeltor made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Very well, he said slowly. I will hear the humans' proposal in full, and I will meet with these other species. But, he added with a stern look, the final decision remains mine. It was a small concession, but a revolutionary one in the context of the hegemony's rigid hierarchy. 1 year later, representatives from 12 species gathered on a neutral planet to sign the new galactic charter. The hegemony wasn't dissolved, but transformed, from an empire of conquest to a federation of equals. Emperor Zaxeltor, still adorned in elaborate robes but noticeably less pompous, stood beside President Garcia as they activated the holographic charter together. From this day forward, they announced jointly, the peoples of the galaxy will work together in peace and mutual respect. Admiral Clothak, now Ambassador Clothak, stood nearby with Sub-Commander Trelak, who had been promoted, for his visionary approach to interspecies relations. I never thought I would see such changes in my lifetime, Clothak admitted to his former subordinate. Trelak smiled. All because humans laugh when they should cower. Perhaps, Clothak said thoughtfully, the ability to laugh at power is the true mark of civilization. As the ceremony concluded, Captain Wright of the Curiosity, whose encounter had started it all, looked around at the diverse gathering of species. When we first met the hegemony, we laughed because they seemed ridiculous, she said to Captain Schultz. But now I see that laughter did more than express our disbelief. It showed us a different way forward. Schultz nodded. Humans have always used humor to deal with the unknown and to challenge authority. It turns out that might be our greatest contribution to the galaxy. In the years that followed, humans would bring many innovations to their new galactic neighbors. But perhaps none was as important as teaching them to question, to adapt, and occasionally to laugh at absurdity, even when it wore impressive medals and spoke with a booming voice.